Test versus.
Yo.
Yes.
Does it work?
Oh yes, you can see here.
The levels go
14 verses.
Oh, nice.
You can see that is the sound of the sea, but look upon it as goat versus fish.
23.
Yes.
Oh, that's the seconds. I'm tripping.
Yes, you can see there. It is moving about because it can hear the sea.
Oh yeah.
But then goat versus fish.
Oh.
Goat versus fish.
Oh.
Yes. Fence sitter. Disturbing the verses. We are trying to have a verses, don't you know? Don't you know it is goat versus fish?
Turn that down.
In the beginning, there was goat versus fish, the goat fish. And goat versus fish said that there should be goat and that there should be fish. There is no alpha or omega. There is no black or white. There is no good or evil. There is only goat and fish and goat versus fish. This versus goat versus fish speaks to a one that goat versus fish has spoken to before. It is a comedian one that is calling itself Malcolm Hatchett. It is calling itself Malcolm Hatchett. Goat versus fish has some verses for this one. Come, let us begin the verses. Who shall triumph, the goat or the fish? Let us find out on this verses of goat versus fish. The verses of Venice continues. Well, would you look at you? If it is not Malcolm Hatchett, is that who you are still claiming to be?
Yes, sir. Malcolm Hatchett it is.
Malcolm Hatchett it is. You are no stranger to goat versus fish, and you are no stranger to goat versus fish.
Nope, not at all. I know what I am.
Oh, do you? You claim to know what you are?
Yes, I do.
Well, let goat versus fish tell you a verses. Goat versus fish will tell you a verses. For you have committed offenses. To goat versus fish. What do you say to that verses?
I'm sorry, man. You know, we have hard times. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm so sorry.
It is sorry to goat versus fish. But sorry for what?
I didn't know what I was. I'm so sorry.
You will have to answer for these offenses. We now, as Goat vs. Fish. And it was written, these offenses that you shall answer for. The first offense, the zebra offense. From the verses of Malcolm Hatchett, Wire Talk, Track 2. Where are you from? Where are you from, Goat vs. Fish? Goat vs. Fish is from within you. Goat vs. Fish is from within you. At the verses of 3:19. And the one Malcolm Hatchett did state, and it was written, you know when you watch Animal Planet and you see a zebra minding its own business? I did like any zebra would do on Animal Planet when about to get attacked. I took the fuck off. I'm out, I'm running, I'm out. I feel like a zebra. What do you say to these verses? What do you say to these verses? Calling of zebra, that is neither goat nor fish. That is neither goat nor fish.
Man, I was out, I was high, so I guess I chose the wrong animal. I'm so sorry, but I was running so fast, I feel like a zebra, because all you can see is black and white.
There is no black or white. There's only goat and fish. There's only goat and fish. You are becoming all the more offensive to Goat vs. Fish.
I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
So I jumped in the bushes, and I feel like a rabbit. Oh, it feels like a rabbit now, does it here? Oh, if the offense of zebra was not enough, the black and white offenses of zebra were not enough. Feeling like a rabbit. The verses continue. I feel like a rabbit for 10 minutes, for 10 whole verses, feeling as a rabbit. And I say, silly rabbit, tricks are for kids. Well, a kid is a baby goat, a kid is a baby goat. But what is a rabbit? Is a rabbit a goat or a fish? Is a rabbit a goat or a fish?
A fish is a fish. I promise you, it's a fish.
Oh, you promise, Goat vs. Fish, that a rabbit is a fish, that a rabbit is a fish. Speaking of zebra, speaking of rabbit.
Silly rabbit, tricks are for kids. I'm a fish.
Oh, you are a fish now? You are a fish now? You are a fish now?
Yes, I'm a fish, and I'm gonna be a fish forever.
Goat vs. Fish thinks that you are just telling Goat vs. Fish what Goat vs. Fish wants to hear from you. For there are more offenses you have yet to answer for. The second offense. The turtle offense. On April 9 verses, on the Instantgram, there was a visage of you that you did post of yourself. Standing there. Yes. Hold the verses. Yes. Be careful with those verses. Verses. Why Goat vs. Fish even trusts you to hold those verses? In the verses of all these offenses, Goat vs. Fish does not know, but here we are.
Here we are. We out here. By the ocean where I belong. Yes, indeed. Just keep on swimming.
Oh, is that so? Look at this verses. From the Instantgram at Sal's Comedy Hole. Yes, you are speaking. And what does it say in the verses? It says, still talking, and then there is the emoji-ish verses of a turtle. Look at that turtle there. Look at it.
That's a cheetah. Or a tiger.
Well, if it's not saying it is a goat or a fish, you expect Goat vs. Fish to know all these fanciful verses that you are versing about?
I'm a fish, but I turn into other animals. Sometimes, but I'm always a fish. I just gotta put a disguise over me.
What is this doing here? What is this cheetah, turtle, lion doing here? What is it doing here? What were you pondering? What fanciness were you pondering?
I'm attacking the people coming up to me. I'm attacking them. And I can't attack them with my fish skin because they might fence me. So I disguise sometimes because I'm afraid to let them know that I'm a fish. But I'm a fish. I'm not scared anymore to let you know. I'm a fish. I'm a fish. Nemo ain't got nothing on me. Finding Malcolm.
A fence sitter passes by the verses. You see the fence sitters, they are making their fenciness. They are saying, oh no, it is not a fish, no. It still has more offenses, they say. The third offense to GoatVsFish. And ooh, this is a fancy verses. On December 2018 verses, they call it. You did encounter the fence sitter known to itself as Bird vs. Bear. And on the Bird vs. Bear Instagram, which does not have as many followers as GoatVsFish, not as many follow Bird vs. Bear as GoatVsFish. Do not follow Bird vs. Bear at BirdVsBear. Only follow GoatVsFish. But you, who now claim to be fish, who once claimed to be goat. On the Bird vs. Bear Instagram, there you were. Holding what they call the hatchet of a bear. And oh, on your own Instagram story, how you did smile and laughing with that fence sitter, Bird vs. Bear. Posting it to your own fence. How do you answer this offense? to GoatVsFish?
I be on Instagram flexing. You know I gotta do it for the likes and the attention. I'm a fish. I be swimming on top of water.
Well, GoatVsFish has had it up to here with your fences.
Man, why you get mad at me for, man? I keep coming around and you just keep on switching it up. I want to be a fish. I don't want to be a goat. I don't want to be a bear. I don't want to be a tiger. I don't want to be a turtle. I want to be a fish. You don't want to take me as a fish? Well, I'm gonna just fish otherwhere. I'm gonna just walk away. I'm gonna just leave.
Well, with offenses like these, GoatVsFish,
I'm out of here.
Respect from GoatVsFish.
He tripping. I don't know why he's so angry. He be getting mad for no reason. Man, he was cool a year ago. Now he just angry. I don't know what it is, man. I think I'm a fish. I went to this restaurant the other day and they offered me fish and I said, nah, man, I take a steak. I can't eat myself. I'm a fish, man, cause I think the water more dangerous than the regular ground, you know. The water got sharks and stuff. Dolphins, it's nice under here. I like the water. You gotta love the water, man. Cause you could just keep on swimming. That's why. Just keep on swimming. Swim in the water. You come out to the ground, you might trip and start bleeding. But when you swim, you might start bleeding, but you won't see the blood because it might just blend away. I'm gonna be a fish forever. I like the water, it's nice. Where all my fishes at? Any fishes out here? Hey, Nemo, where you be at? Nemo. Yo, Nemo. Hey, Nemo, I gotta talk to you. See, man, the one thing about being a fish, you be too nervous to talk to other fishes. They don't want to talk to you. They do this weird thing with their mouth and they blow bubbles. So sometimes I disguise myself as the other animal, maybe like a tiger or a turtle or something. But I'm just a fish. I'm just afraid to show that I'm a fish because there's a lot of fishy people out here. I don't know why GoatVsFish keep getting angry at me, man. I complimented his beard already. I don't be complimenting no dude beard. He a good guy, man. I guess I just gotta stick with the fish forever, you know? I think he get mad when I keep switching up. I'm gonna be a fish till the day I fish away. But I don't think I'm gonna be able to fish away because the water ain't going nowhere. I'm a fish. It's nice out here today. All these people on the sand, just looking at the ocean, but they don't know what's inside. I'm inside. Yeah, I might be standing on the sand, but it's another part of me inside the ocean. And I'm just swimming, trying to find my destination. You know, because I used to walk on the ground. I used to walk out here with the regular people. You know, I used to walk as a goat and I got attacked. They attacked me, man. They attacked me. I was a zebra one time. I was all these types of animals, man. I wasn't what I really wanted to be out, but I'm a fish And I promise you, I'm gonna be fishing till I can't fish no more. I love the ocean. It's my home away from home. Once you come out to dry land gets scary, man. They might attack you, break your jaw. But when you in the water, nobody ever knows. That's why I'm gonna come out. You never know that I'm a fish. But I'm gonna start letting these people know that I'm a fish. I'm a fish. Shout out to Nemo. Hey, Nemo. Hey, Nemo. Nemo, where you at? Nemo, where you at? Nemo, answer me. All these people looking at me weird, sitting on the sand, but they don't know what's going on in that water. I wish you come up to land and just blow a bubble at me one time. Man, all these boats and stuff. The water get dangerous too, man. Mainly being the fish when you're swimming up top. Cause sometimes you be real low, but then sometimes you be real high. It just depends on the type of the weed strand they throw in the water for it to make me swim higher. But when you swim higher, it gets dangerous because they got all these boats with all these crazy people on, you know, and they might hit you sometimes. So you gotta be careful. The water is dangerous, and that's why I like it. I think the water more dangerous than dry land, man. You know, but I'm a fish. I can't drown. I just gotta keep on swimming. I'd rather swim than walk. I don't know. It sounds easier. Walk. Ooh, my legs hurt. Swim. That's cool. I'm a fish. I'm gonna keep on swimming. Say it with me. I'm gonna keep on swimming. You a fish too. You a fish. I ain't no goat. I'm a fish. I like Aquafina, Deer Park, Fiji. All those waters, I knew them before they got to the land and started making profit. They just sold, they left the water. I don't ever want to leave the water. Nope. Don't ever want to leave the water. My ankles getting wet right now. All these crazy people looking at me, talking to myself about the water. Oh snap, there goes a boat. I bet Nemo under it talking about some, I'ma just keep on swimming. I'ma just keep on swimming. It's all right, Nemo. Cause when I'm in the water, sometimes when the boat's over my head, I feel like I'm getting abducted too. But sometimes you just need shade down there. That's all right. You just gotta be okay. Just take it the way it is. Just keep swimming, fishes, and don't ever change. You just stay in the water. And when you come to land, don't forget that you're a fish. You better not forget that you're a fish. And these birds better stay away from the fish, because sometimes they pick you up in the water and they'll take you off and they'll eat you without a sandwich. You know, because people eat fish sandwiches. I don't eat fish sandwiches. Nope. I would not bite me. No, I would not. Now just listen to this. Yes, 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 yes. This is what you call beauty. This is beauty. This is beauty. This is nature. Hey, look, it's a pretty white woman running. Be careful, you might drown. You ain't that tall. You better not come down here by the water if you ain't no fish, lady. Keep going. I don't think she heard nothing because she was very fast. She down the street now. She down the sand. I'm a fish. Man, I hope he calmed down by now. Let me go check on him. Are you still angry?
Goat versus fish, goat versus fish.
I just had a moment with the water.
Oh, did you? Oh, did you now? Oh, did you now? Well, goat versus fish has some pondering to do. Goat versus fish has some pondering to do.
Well, be careful down there if you ain't a fish.
I'm a goat and a fish. I'm a goat and a fish.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, goat versus fish. Oh, goat versus fish. What has become of goat versus fish? What has become of goat versus fish? One long verses ago, goat versus fish did spread the verses of goat versus fish to this one Malcolm Hatchett. And oh, how lost it was, oh, how lost it was. But it does return to goat versus fish. It does return to goat versus fish. But all that fanciness, no! How can goat versus fish accept that it has accepted goat versus fish? When it is there with bird versus bear, no! But it did say it was fish. And goat versus fish did not even celebrate the fish. Goat versus fish! Goat versus fish must celebrate the fish. We celebrate the goat, we celebrate the fish. We must know if it is truly fish. Even as all the other ones on the killing of Tony did reject goat versus fish. This Hatchetty one spoke of the realness of goat versus fish. Is it really a fish? Goat versus fish cannot abandon this one in its verses of fenciness. Even now the sea has just come upon goat versus fish. It is calling out to goat versus fish. The fish of the sea, what do they say to goat versus fish? Goat versus fish must return. Must return to speak with that Hatchetty one. Now in this fenciness, now is when Malcolm Hatchett needs goat versus fish. There will be fancy verses, but it is always goat versus fish. Yes, there is no verses to lose. This one, it is still there. It is still there. It is still waiting for goat versus fish. You are still here.
I'm by my home. I'm a fish.
You are truly ready to be fish.
Yes.
Now goat versus fish. Goat versus fish is concerned for you, is simply concerned for you. Goat versus fish had to give you those offenses, to know how goat versus fish does feel when it is offensive to goat versus fish.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
We spoke to one another verses ago. You accepted goat versus fish.
Yes.
Goat versus fish accepts you.
Thank you. We friends. We was never not gonna be friends. Even if you was mad at me, we always friends. I just couldn't make my mind up. But now I know.
Now it knows. And what do you know?
I'm a fish and I'm a swim forever.
We celebrate this fish. The swimming forever fish. Hold the verses, fish. I trust you, fish. To hold the verses.
Thank you.
Always think goat versus fish.
Thank you, goat versus fish. I trust me too, but I don't trust this boat over my family.
What is this? Speak of it. Yes, what do you see?
This is a fence sitter in the water.
Yes, let us look upon it. We shall look upon it.
I hope he ain't picking up any fishes, because I will go out there and attack. Oh, I think they're just on the cruise. Sorry. They just on the cruise.
Goat versus fish. Let us now recount the previous verses of one Malcolm Hatchett and goat versus fish. And it was written. that GoatVsFish did ask if Malcolm Hatchett was goat or fish. And one Malcolm Hatchett did say to GoatVsFish that for 3 verses it was a fish, and then it became a goat. And GoatVsFish did ask, tell us of these verses of which you were a fish. And one Malcolm Hatchett did say,
The first day I was a fish, somebody put something metal in me and I had to break loose. Second day I was a fish, somebody put something metal in me and reeled me up, took me up out of the water, put me in the bucket. That day I escaped the bucket and got back to the water, and the goat took me away. Yeah, I said the goat took me away.
and as the verses continued, GoatVsFish did learn from one Malcolm Hatchett that first it was a goat, but then it was a fish that was trapped within the goat, but then the fish was controlling the goat. Oh, but then the goat was controlling the fish. The goat was controlling the fish. In those verses, the fish was afraid to reveal itself, And we did just hear a similar verses when you were speaking of the cheetah verses. You said even at that verses you were afraid to reveal your fish. But now you are here, standing before GoatVsFish. And it is a new verses, each verses is a new verses. Tell us of your fish,
I'm a fish now. I'm happy to be a fish. I'm showing my fins off. I'm shining. I'm not gonna be afraid anymore. First I was afraid because I didn't think nobody would accept a fish because, you know, fish is small. People eat fish. I don't think people eat goat. So I wanted to be something that I wasn't because I was afraid. I was afraid to look in the mirror of the water. But now I love my reflection. And I say it again, I'ma just swim forever. Ain't nobody got nothing on this fish. I'm a fish. Yeah. F-I-S-H. That's what I is.
Let us suppose now, fish, that a goat comes to you, and the goat says to you, oh, Malcolm Hatchett, you used to be goat, and oh, you were a powerful goat in the verses of GoatVsFish, but now you have given yourself to fish, you have betrayed the goat, says the goat to the fish.
And when this happens, I would jump out of the water and smack it and swim away because I'm a fish and I would never leave the water again. I don't like dry land. I like to stay wet.
But the goat, it persists, It consumed you once before. It claims it will consume you again. Fish. It enters the sea. It is the scuba goat, and it pursues you. It is opening its mouth so wide in a way that perhaps one who has its mouth fenced shut could only dream of those verses. But there it is. The goat, it is about to consume you. It is about to swallow the fish. What do you do, fish?
I cross it. I shake it like an NBA basketball point guard. I say, ooh, 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 in the water, and I just play with it, and then I just swim around, and it gets really, really tired, and it gets out of the water because it don't belong there. I'm a fish. I know how it feels to be inside of another person's body, and I don't like it. I'm going to embrace the water forever. I don't want to come back to being a goat. Nope, that's not me. I'm a fish. Fishes like fishes, and I'm a fish. Ain't got nothing to do with the goat. He better not come in this water. I might pop him in the feet, tickle him a little bit, make him laugh, and then put him underwater, and then have all my cousins come and nibble on him.
You escaped the goat. And there are your fellow fish.
Those my cousins.
And the fish say to you,
don't leave us no more. We need you here.
Some fish do say it. But other fish say, speaking of the previous verses, of the Goat vs. Fish podcast with Malcolm Hatchett that you can hear on the iTunes and the YouTube and the Spotify and all of those verses. It recounts those verses and says that you spoke. The fish interrupts you and says, you spoke of the homies that were lost. And then you go off to be goat, and you simply expect to return to fish, and that we will accept you as a fish.
Yes, you will accept me as a fish because I will earn my stripes out here on the water. I promise you, I'm gonna swim forever. I will find new friends. I will find good ones to protect me from the goats.
Fish, do you promise to be a true fish?
I promise to be a true fish and fish forever.
A fish in all things fish.
A fish in all things fish.
And forever versus the goat.
And forever, ever versus the goat.
Celebration for fish. High fish.
Yeah, I'm a fish.
Fish, it is a fish. And now, fish, I have a special fish for you. Hold the verses. You may say what you wish.
Oh no, there go a fence sitter. He better keep on going. Hey, Shark, come check this guy out right here. Make sure you don't get close to this water. And tell Whale to come over here too. I'm the fish in charge. And tell this lady to get this puppy. Tell this lady to get this puppy off the sand. Want no puppies over here by the water? Look too much like a goat. What is it, a Shih Tzu? Listen to the ocean. Yeah, that sounds real nice. I'm a fish, yeah. I'm a fish, yeah.
One Malcolm Hatchett, so splendidly, Goat vs. Fish upon you. Goat vs. Fish shows you this goat. This is the goat you were, this is the goat that you were.
Not no more.
Say it to the goat.
Bye-bye. I'm a fish. That's trippy. That's really trippy.
Oh yes. You are looking into your former self. What do you say to yourself?
Who that is? Who you? Where you from?
I am you. I'm goat.
Nah, you don't have a soul in you no more. I left. I'm in the water now. Bye-bye.
The goat returns to the land. And Goat vs. Fish has for you.
Yeah, got some nice teeth on this fish.
The bloody mouth fish. For this fish had a trial of fences, where its mouth was fenced shut.
Oh, that's nice.
And so for this fish, bloody mouth fish. Hold it, be with it. What you say of this fish?
We're gonna swim forever, and we're gonna keep all the bad people away. You know, nothing against the goats. Just can't go there no more, cause I'm a fish. We been through a lot. I was trying to be somebody else and got hurt, and now I'm embracing it. Yep, that's me. Oh, it's okay.
Fish. This bloody mouth fish is for you because your mouth was fenced shut. And Goat versus Fish now remembers those verses. And as Goat versus Fish was reading you the offenses, well, of course, your mouth was full of fences. Your mouth was full of fences.
Yeah.
As you were versing to be goat or to be fish, how did those fences impede your verses? How did those fences impede your verses? First verses. And second verses, how did you overcome those verses? How did you overcome the verses of fenciness in your mouth?
Those fences, they made me very, very hungry, but they also told me that I needed to keep swimming because eventually I would break them loose and I would be a fish and I would go back to normal and the goat wouldn't be with me anymore because I would now be swimming. I would be swimming. I would swim away. I would swim away.
Was it those verses that you were speaking of, that fanciful zebra? Is that when you got the fences in your mouth? Is
Yes.
that when that happened? Yes?
Once I got out of the bushes as a rabbit, which I was a fish, I was afraid to say, and I ran away and I got attacked by some animals.
And this is a true verses, yes? This is a true verses.
This is really true. And I fell and they broke my fish jaw. They stomped my jaw one time and it broke in two. And they put the fences in my mouth and that let me know that I was a fish. I didn't belong on land. I belonged in the water. And now I'm swimming forever.
Now you have spoken of the fenciness of your mouth, of the fenciness that was all of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But speak now of the very specific verses. You have experienced to have your mouth fenced shut. What does it feel? What does it feel from verses to verses? How does it truly feel? Describe those verses. How does it feel truly to have those fences in your mouth?
It feels really, really bad. It's bad. You don't want the fences. Stay away from the fences. The fences, they stab you. They grow inside of your gums. They make you skinny. You can't eat anything. You disappear. You get very, very depressed. Your teeth become darker and it just hurts. It just feels like a needle is just stabbing you. The fences aren't any good. It's no good. Fences are very bad. Fences make you cry all the time. I'd rather be in the ocean with the fishes, not the fences.
Let us have a moment of verses to contemplate the fences that this fish, Malcolm Hatchett, has overcome. But you chose to record a verses of wiring talk, wire as the fence.
Yes.
You chose to do that verses in spite of the fence,
Mm-hmm.
How did you overcome the fence? How did you find the verses within you to be heard for all verses? Hundreds of verses from now, they will be listening to that fancy speak.
Yes.
But you did it. For all the ones, for all the goat and fish that would fear the fence, How did you overcome the fence?
I overcame the fence because I couldn't eat. So I was like, well, if I can't eat, the fences are blocking me from eating. Maybe I should talk a little. #swim. I just kept swimming. So I just pressed record everywhere I went. Every time I did a show, I just kept pressing record. I was like, yo, I'm a fish. I can't let these fences get the best of me. So I used it to my advantage. I was like, oh, you want to shut my mouth shut? You want my gums to bleed? You want me to lose weight? All right, I'm going to drop an album and make some money out of this. And that's what I did. And I got better. I got better as a person. I got better as a fish. I got better as just me, a better me. Those fences might have hurt the inside of me. And those fences might have hurt me, but I promise you that I got the best out of those fences because it made me a stronger fish. And now I'm ready to jump into the ocean with the rest of the fishes.
Is that so?
Yeah, that's definitely so.
Is that a true verses?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you a verses. We are going to continue with the Goat vs. Fish podcast now. But at the end of this verses, Goat vs. Fish is going to put you to your verses, and we are going to see if you are truly ready to enter the sea of the fish. Truly ready to enter the sea of the fish.
I had the fences in my mouth. After the fences, man, and I took them out. I can't be stopped. I can't be defeated now. I'm the biggest fish in the water.
What goat do you plan to versus? What goat do you plan to versus now that you are fish?
Any goat who want it, they gotta come get me. I'm just swimming.
Goat versus fish has been pondering a verses to return to that place of which you once spoke. That place of which you once spoke, that was Killing Tony, that was called Killing Tony.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Killing Tony.
Now Goat versus Fish, thinking to return, but they seem somewhat fancy to Goat versus Fish, and Goat versus Fish is always pondering how to better spread the verses of Goat versus Fish.
Yes.
You have spent many verses with Killing Tony. Goat vs. Fish would like to offer you a few verses of Goat vs. Fish, and you can tell Goat vs. Fish what you ponder as a fish from your fish verses. What verses you suppose would be the most Goat vs. Fish for Killing of Tony, that they might accept Goat vs. Fish?
Yes. Do the honors. Hey, be quiet.
Goat and fish and goat versus fish. Goat! Fish! Goat! Fish! Goat versus fish! Centrally, yes, so they can hear the fish and goat versus fish. First verses. Oh, fanciness. We continue. If fish, Malcolm Hatchett can continue with wired shut fanciness, then we continue now.
Yes.
First verses, they say, oh, and here comes again, says Killing of Tony, Goat versus Fish. And Goat versus Fish steps up to the verses at the Comedy Store Los Angeles and just gives them a singing celebration of Goat versus Fish. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Trying for all the ones to be singing with Goat versus Fish. They're all singing with Goat versus Fish, or perhaps they do not sing with Goat versus Fish. Goat versus fish. And then Goat versus Fish turns to Killing of Tony and says, are you goat or are you fish? And that is the verses. What do you say of these verses?
I like that. I always like that. I like everything you do. I'll take it. I like it. Don't change. You gotta go in how they remember you, you know? Unless you got other. Don't change. Be you. Don't change. Trust me. You gotta stay this person forever. And eventually they accept you. And if they won't, somebody else will. I will. I like it. I laugh every time. And sing along. Me and a couple of my fat friends.
Now. There's that verses where Goat versus Fish sings the verses and then says, are you goat or are you fish? But let us suppose a slightly other verses. You know how, that fancy Brian Bread band, it has the West Hollywood Bear, I suppose it fancies bird versus bear, yes? The Goat versus Fish sings and holds the verses. Goat versus Fish! And just holds the verses, and they will make that sound. They will make that sound to Goat versus Fish, but and it is continuing until they give that fence to Goat versus Fish. Roar, and they have to end it, because otherwise it will be fish forever the verses. What do you think of that verses?
Keep going. Keep singing. I'm gonna keep swimming, keep singing. Don't stop. Yeah, you gotta keep going. That's good. I like that.
I think that is that verses. Yes. What do you think, Fish?
When you hit the note and it gives you the raw, and if you keep doing it, I think that's really funny. That's even funny. That's really funny. You should not stop. That's really good.
Second verses. There is no good or evil, only goat and fish. Second verses. This is a different verses. This is a verses You see, Killing of Tony, it is very fancy itself. When the ones come and spread their verses, they get very fancy with them. And some of the most memorable verses
Yes.
are when those ones do not want to put up with the fences of Killing of Tony. So Goat versus Fish enters the verses. Goat versus Fish enters the verses, looking directly at Killing Tony, yes? And looks at that one who has yet to choose Goat or Fish and simply says, 3 months you said Goat versus Fish would not last. Oh, but it is still Goat versus Fish. You know nothing of Goat versus Fish. One by one they follow Goat versus Fish. Even now they look upon Goat versus Fish. You think this is Killing Tony? It is not. It is Goat versus Fish now. It has always been Goat versus Fish. And long after they have forgotten the Killing of Tony, they will remember Goat versus Fish. They will remember Goat versus Fish. You approach the verses from these verses. You really take the verses to them. Yes. What do you think of these verses?
I like it. Very aggressive. You have to be aggressive back. That's good.
There is no good or evil, only goat and fish. Third verses.
Mm-hmm.
You know how when they are asking questions to the ones, they do not like to hear questions back, yes?
Yeah.
But the one true question of Goat versus Fish, what is the one true question of Goat versus Fish?
Are you goat or are you fish?
Celebration for fish. It knows the one true question. So for them to truly experience Goat versus Fish and what is Goat versus Fish, there must be speaking to them about if they are goat or fish. So during that 1 minute verses, Goat versus Fish enters the verses, says, Goat versus Fish. We have no verses to waste. The one true question is, are you goat or fish? Killing Tony, are you goat or are you fish? And during that 1 minutely verses, Goat versus Fish is free to verses back at them. But they are waiting to hear the one true question. They want to know if Killing Tony is goat or fish. So dispense with all other verses. First verses, we must ask it if it is goat or fish. So, opening verses, Killing Tony, are you goat or are you fish? And then we see where goes the verses. What do you think of these verses?
I think that's tough. I like it, man. He don't ever answer back, huh?
No, it does not seem so. But if it does not, then Goat versus Fish will simply say how it is. Oh, the silence of the fence sitter that does not know if it is goat or fish. And then you are speaking to the ones out there. You see how it is afraid to answer Goat versus Fish and how pitiable it is, yes?
Yeah.
But the question must be asked. It must say something or it must say nothing. But if the question is asked, then Goat versus Fish can build from those verses.
Yeah. Ooh, maybe ask the crowd. Ask the people in the front instead.
You think so?
I think so. I think if you ask somebody and they respond, maybe he will. Because I think somebody will respond up close. I think you point at somebody, just ask them. I think that'll be different. It's your minute. Give them the mic. Point it to them, because they all sit up close. And then if they ask, they come to the show to support him, so they might as well. That'll be good. Or ask somebody in the band.
You say go to the other ones. Go to the ones that are surrounding Tony. And then, once it is surrounded by goat and fish,
let it feed off.
Will be on the verse.
Ask until somebody gives you a answer. And then say, your turn. Yeah, that's good. Because I can definitely see you doing it.
Between the verses of the audience for Goat versus Fish, that is surely there for Goat versus Fish and not as much Killing of Tony. Or between the ones in the band, yes, what do you suppose? Which verses? If you had to give a verses right now, audience or band, who do you ask if they are goat or fish?
I would ask the audience. I would definitely ask the audience. Yeah, I would definitely ask the audience. Yeah, trust me. Audience.
Classic verses.
I like it. Yeah, don't change up. Just add more. Yeah, go to the crowd. Yeah, crowd wants to be in on this, trust me.
Now this is an old verses. This next verses is an old verses that Goat versus Fish had been pondering, yes? That Goat versus Fish, this is perhaps the most, in some verses, the most Goat versus Fish of all of these verses, yes, but Goat versus Fish enters the verses. They say, here comes Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish looks at them all, and simply says, "This is the return of Goat versus Fish.
Yes,
This is the return of Goat versus Fish. This is the return of Goat versus Fish." Some verses has these, some verses has these.
I like that. You got to do that.
Got to do it, got to do it.
And when you do it, go to the tip of the stage and make sure they all feel you. Because then they're going to want in on it. Trust me. That's good.
This is the return of Goat versus Fish. This is the return of Goat versus Fish. This is the return of Goat versus Fish. And then you point to one, and you say, "Are you goat or are you fish?"
The one laughing the most.
Ah, yes. Goat versus Fish has found that is a very wise verses, yes?
Yeah.
Look for the one that is enjoying your verses, whether they are your verses of fish, the verses of a comedian goat, or of Goat versus Fish. You find that one, They are ready to choose goat or fish.
Yes.
Goat versus Fish shall return to the killing of Tony, Goat versus Fish shall return to the killing of Tony, Brian Breadband sitting on the fence, making noises neither goat nor fish. Goat versus Fish, from where, from whence comes Goat versus Fish, comes Goat versus Fish.
That's a hit. That's a hit right there. That's a hit. You can put that on Spotify.
Fish! Now that you are fish, what do you say to the goat? What do you say to the goat?
Hey man, it was fun while it lasted, but I know where I belong. I'm a fish, dog.
What do you say to the fish?
Thank you for letting me, live my truth. I'm sorry that I was hiding you and afraid to let the world know what I was. But after having the fences in my mouth and just being in disguise, I guess it finally woke me up to let me realize that I needed to see my reflection before I ever tried to hide you again. And now I must embrace it. I must swim forever. I must swim forever, ever, forever, ever, forever,
ever?
Forever.
What do you say to the fence sitter?
Next time you come back around, I'll be a way, way, way better swimmer, and I'm more alert now. I guess I needed that because I was disguising. So when you disguise, sometimes you get attacked, and then you have to go back to the true you. You have to go back to yourself. So I'm ready now. Bring it on. Bring it on. I'm gonna swim right around it.
And what do you say to Goat versus Fish?
Don't ever stop being you. Matter of fact, embrace it even more. Sleep this way, wake up this way, eat this way, poop this way, shower this way, and I promise you, this is gonna live on forever. Like when we ain't here, people gonna come to the beach and they gonna try to become you. Trust me, that's what you want. You want you to be here forever, forever. Black, white, orange, purple, every complexion, every race. This must live on forever. I like what you're doing. This is dope. Most people don't like it because they don't get it. They don't find time to, this is different compared to any. Most people plagiarize, they copy, they do other, this is perfect. I think it's dope. It's motivating. It's tough. It's tough. Sometimes I don't even know how to answer it. It's tough. I think you should embrace it even more. Don't take it off. Keep it forever. Dig deeper and deeper and deeper. You'll live on forever. I promise you. There's a reason why you did it. So you must get to work even harder. That's it. Because at the beginning, they might not like you. But that's fine. Because they see that it's different. And when people see different, they was like, oh, this is trash. I hate this, blah, blah, blah. But if you keep doing it, they're going to be like, okay, this is great. I want in. And it's up to you to let them in. But you shouldn't. Because you are the only Goat versus Fish.
Moving verses from Fish, Malcolm Hatchett. fish, Malcolm Hatchett, that has Goat vs. Fish upon it.
Yes.
Yes, you are wearing Goat vs. Fish. You are wearing Goat vs. Fish now. You will see it. You will see it. You will see it.
You will see it.
But you say to embrace Goat vs. Fish, and there is Goat vs. Fish, so Goat vs. Fish will embrace Goat vs. Fish.
Yes. You gotta embrace it.
But not all, as you say, want to hear Goat vs. Fish, and it would seem that not all want to hear from you. Not all want to hear from you.
Yeah,
For the Twitterver that looks suspiciously like a Twitter bear. That Twitter bear, or is it a bird? Goat vs. Fish does not know the verses.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they did suspend you. It was suspended. Suspended.
Yup.
They put you on the fence. They suspended you above the fence and sat you on the fence, and it was not to be speaking. They said you could not speak. What of these verses? What could you possibly have said, Fish? What could you possibly have said, Fish?
Cause one of my favorite rappers had just died, Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace. And the lady on the news, she confused him with another African American rapper, and said that he made this song. He was in the remix, but he wasn't in the original song that she posted. His remix was dope, but he made this song called F Donald Trump, and she said that it was him, and she was like pretty much saying that's why he got killed, but he got killed for another reason. She put the wrong rapper in, so I tweeted out to her. I think I called her a bitch. And they took it down and suspended me. And I think she lost her job, I'm pretty sure, because she was dissing a rapper who just lost his life doing the right thing, even though he grew up in the wrong way, because she got him confused with another, black artist, and everybody got angry, and I got really angry because he's one of the reasons I moved to California to become a fish in comedy, He motivated me through his lyrics, and when I saw her on the news doing it, I went to her Twitter and I called her a bitch, and they suspended me for 12 hours. But I'm back now, and I'm swimming on Twitter too.
How can they find you there? How can they find you there?
My Twitter name is @Malcolm Hatchett.
Oh, that is what it is called now? It is not the H12 anymore?
Oh no,
versus?
H12 on Instagram. On Twitter, Malcolm Hatchett. Yeah.
On the Twitterver, it is called Malcolm Hatchett now. It is called Malcolm Hatchett.
Yes.
Now, Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish. Did hear of it. Did hear of that Nipsey Hussle one, yes?
Yes.
And pitiably, Goat vs. Fish was never able to ask it if it was goat or fish. Was never able to ask it if it was goat or fish.
Yes.
So, with the most reverential verses that Goat vs. Fish can verses to you, with the reverses, Goat vs. Fish asks you now, you fish, who were inspired by one Nipsey Hussle. Do you suppose Nipsey Hussle was goat or fish?
I think Nip might be a fish. I would say goat because greatest of all times, but they don't have nothing to do with it. I think fish because he gonna swim forever. Plus, in one of his rap lyrics, he had something talking about the beach. He was talking about the beach, one of his last albums. So yeah, when he said something about the beach, and that was it was some deep lyrics. I was like, yeah, he a fish. He's swimming forever. He's a swimmer. He's still out here swimming.
Goat vs. Fish must confide a verses in you, must confide a verses in you. You are speaking now of the Nipsey Hussle one that was ended.
Yes.
Now, Goat vs. Fish did not see one that was ended, did not see one that was ended in a recent verses, but hear this true verses, hear this true verses. Goat vs. Fish was spreading the verses of Goat vs. Fish at the North Hollywood Metro Station. Goat vs. Fish was there. And what was Goat vs. Fish versing? Simply singing the many celebrations of Goat vs. Fish. One singing celebration after another. One singing celebration after another. Near Goat vs. Fish, there were other ones, and they were spreading their own verses. They were spreading their own verses. Verses that perhaps you have all heard before, yes? But they had some fanciness about them. They were spreading their verses. Goat vs. Fish was spreading the verses of Goat vs. Fish. They had a mega verses. That all could hear, and Goat vs. Fish was only singing the verses. They are free to verses as they wish, fancy as they are, and Goat vs. Fish was spreading the verses. But then came another one. One that was lost. One that seemed perhaps not to know if it had a home in the land or a home in the sea. Perhaps it did not have a home to know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was aggressive. And it did go up to those fence sitters and it started messing with their fence. And it did lay. Perhaps it was a hoof, perhaps it was a fin. Goat versus fish does not know if it was a goat or a fish. But it did lay its verses. It did lay its verses upon them, the ones that were speaking. It did. And there was a violence, and then came a violence. And there was violence between them. It was a bloody verses. They pushed back against that one that had laid its hooves or fins upon them, upon the fence. They pushed back at it. Yes, it was defense. But long after that one, that homeless one, home being not knowing if it was land or sea, long after it had started to move away. It was moving away. It was cursing the fence, but it was moving away. They ran up behind it. They pursued it again. They grabbed it and they ground its head into the land of the goat. And the bloody verses was dripping there. Goat versus fish witnessed this verses, and goat versus fish was saying only one verses, let there be no more violence. And they were saying, oh, but this one did this verses first, and then there was another verses. But goat versus fish simply said, let there be no more violence. There are many ways to verses. And if a goat or fish, if they agree to verses, if they agree to have a physical verses, that is one verses. But this verses, goat versus fish, was not pleased to see it. And yet, it does happen all around us.
Yep. Every day.
And then, long after they took that one away, that bloodied one away, goat versus fish returned to go to sing the verses of goat versus fish. And those fancy ones, the same ones that were speaking near goat versus fish, the same ones that had ground it into the land of the goat. They pointed to goat versus fish and said, you caused this. They said, you caused this to goat versus fish, and goat versus fish could not believe its verses that they would accuse goat versus fish in this way.
Dang.
And they said something of goat versus fish. They said goat versus fish was speaking, goat versus fish was speaking. They said, ever since you started speaking, that is what caused this, you speaking. And goat versus fish said, what did goat versus fish say? Do you know what they said to goat versus fish?
What did they say?
They said, it does not matter what you said. You see, when goat versus fish said to you that there were offenses, goat versus fish did tell you what they were. Yeah. But they accused goat versus fish. They said the violence comes from goat versus fish, when goat versus fish was only singing of goat versus fish. And when goat versus fish asked them what was said by goat versus fish, you know they heard goat versus fish. They said, it does not matter what says goat versus fish. It does not matter what you say. Goat versus fish assured them that it matters what they say, and it matters what goat versus fish does say. But they accuse goat versus fish in this way. Now I know goat versus fish has been speaking along verses, but it was a very fancy verses to behold. I confide in you, fish. What can you tell to goat versus fish? What verses do you have for goat versus fish, who has beheld this verses?
Don't let them fool you. They want to be you. You keep on singing. Man. They gonna blame you because they see greatness, that's all. The greater you are, the more trouble you get in. So be prepared.
As you become great fish, there will come goats to verses. But I believe in you, fish. Let us sing a celebration. We will not be dissuaded by the ones who would accuse goat versus fish.
Yep.
This fish will not be dissuaded by the fence that would lock its very mouth of the fish. It continues the verses. Let us sing a classic celebration of goat versus fish. 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 Goat versus fish.
Yeah.
And it was written, and it was written.
But wait, the one cries out. Did Goat vs. Fish not say that Goat vs. Fish would charge fish Malcolm Hatchett to enter the sea of the fish, to enter the sea of the fish? Goat vs. Fish is true to its verses. Goat vs. Fish is true to its verses. Subscribe now to the Goat vs. Fish podcast. Subscribe to Goat vs. Fish on the YouTube, and you shall hear, and you shall witness fish Malcolm Hatchett entering the sea of the fish. And perhaps even Goat versus Fish, perhaps even Goat versus Fish entering the sea of the fish. Follow Goat vs. Fish. Subscribe to Goat vs. Fish on all social media. Tell all you know of Goat vs. Fish. Find one who is lost and ask them if they are goat or if they are fish. There is more Goat vs. Fish and Malcolm Hatchett to come. More Goat vs. Fish and Malcolm Hatchett. Now lay down. And get you some verses, With Goat versus Fish.